You trusted your family, love. But what if you found out it was all a big scam? Get ready to dive into secrets, betrayals, and shiver twists. Want to know how this story begins and ends? Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, everything will change. And before we start, you already subscribe to the channel and leave your like to strengthen. Now let's go straight to the story. Basted Letitia to enter the apartment to realize a discussion with altered voices. Who shouted louder was the husband, while his mother kept his head down, dropping deep sighs. "But you didn't talk so much about the ranch," said Gustavo, already clearly tired of that subject. "Yes," muttered Donna Irachema, her mother-in-law. She really wanted to move to. The ranch had retired a few years ago, and since then, urban life began to look embarrassed. Dreamed of a garden of its own, a flowery flower that could caring for affection, and the son realized this dream, because then I bought it for you, Gustavo, raised the indicator, as if proclaimed a great achievement. Although this acquisition was not in my plans, I did everything just to please my beloved mother, and now this is his gratitude. He ignored the detail of having acquired the property for a derisory value that barely affected his pocket, as a novice entrepreneur would rather increase the drama of the situation to give the mother a lesson that is happening, asked Letitia. Entering the middle of the room, rarely disagreements occurred between mother and son. Usually the two were completely harmony. "Mom no longer wants to live in the ranch," complained Gustavo. Letitia, surprised, the mother-in-law remembered how well of joy Donna Irachema demonstrated to find out the purchase in a single night had put it all and moved for good. "Had you ever sorry I can't stay there anymore?" Donna Irachema murmured. "I can't," and ended up doing whatever they want for me. "But I no longer come back to that place," concluded her without facing anyone. Gustavo frowned and he walked away toward the window, making it clear how much it all bothered him. On the other hand, approached the mother-in-law, holding her hands. "Because you don't want to go back? There is something wrong there?" asked her daughter-in-law herself. Had been in the ranch only once when husband presented the new property. At the time, everything seemed in perfect conditions. "I feel the constant feeling that at night someone observes me," said Donna Irachema in a dark tone. "I'm sure there is something in that house. I don't know what it is. Spirits, perhaps something evil." Letitia could not even respond before the room was filled with the wide and ironic laughter of Gustavo. "Ah, mother, that absurd. It's this mocking. He's watching too much soap operas." "This is not silly," replied Donna Irachema. "Upset as soon as I darken, I hear the floor grinding, the window opening. Without nobody, the dishes vibrating. Even I saw a figure in the mirror on one occasion. I don't get no longer." At night, after saying that, she turned and disappeared through the door, ending the conversation. "Suddenly, because it is my mother went crazy once and for all," grunted Gustavo, swinging her head. "I think it's time to consult a good psychiatrist." Letitia was silent, reflecting. The mother-in-law didn't seem unbalanced despite her strange words, Gustavo, but she is really terrified, wanted defending it. The ranch was far from the urban center, and the only way to get there was car, which made the idea of just spending the sleepless day in the place. Was sorry for that lady who always treated her with so much affection. And suddenly a sudden idea, it came up in your mind listening. "And if I go along with your mother for the ranch to pass some days there," suggested Letitia. "If we were both of us, she will not be afraid. Maybe afterwards of this, she gets used to and can be alone." Gustavo liked the proposal, and the wife seemed certain too that was the best solution by taking advantage of the arrival of the spring holiday. Letitia would have more clearance in the job. I worked as a secretary at a marketing company, could not miss on business days, but spend about 3 or 4 nights at the beginning of the month. During the time off would not bring problems, and it will be great for the baby," Letitia added with a smile, lightly caressing her belly. The Tavares always wanted to have a child, and a few weeks earlier were finally awarded the news. Letitia found that I was pregnant, had already tried other times, but in all of them the outcome was painful, or the pregnancy simply did not advance or occur, a spontaneous abortion in the first months after. Of so many bad experiences, she took every possible care so that nothing badly affected the baby. and he come to the world with health. Unfortunately, I can't take you, sighed Gustavo. I'm very work. They had started their career together in the same marketing corporation, but a few years later, he went to another company and further thought it was time to open his own venture. Letitia remained in marketing company and gradually grew there. At first, he felt upset that he didn't have so much time beside him. But soon the new responsibilities took up their hours and she could barely think of missing. This is no problem. We call a taxi, said Letitia, shrugging. Being pregnant, the ideal was not to carry weight. Donna Irachema was also relieved to have her daughter-in-law around, but the idea of reviewing that house still did her. Feeling a tightness in the chest in the taxi, she kept her eyes turned to the window, trying control. The tremor that shook your hands still remembered the episodes scary that had passed and feared to repeat if he had a choice, would rather that the son would accompany them because the male presence would give him more security. However, she knew about her son's crowded agenda and thought it better not to insist out that, like Letitia, he didn't take his fears seriously. Must be all her imagination, thought the young woman, sighing. Doesn't get that worried, said Letitia, wanting to reassure her mother-in-law, sketching a smile tonight. I will investigate every corner of the house. You will see that there is nothing abnormal there. But I saw a shadow, muttered Donna Irachema, anguished. I saw with my own eyes. I'm not delirious. I am not the type who has hallucinations will even be considered. Letitia, with my eyes turned to the mother-in-law. The driver of the taxi, who heard the corner conversation of the ear, launched to Letitia a brief of feather. Realizing that it was no use prolonging that chat, she just leaned seat and passed the rest of the route watching the scenario. When they arrived at the ranch, the taxi driver made a point of helping with the bags before leaving. Decided to say something unexpected. If needing, there is a psychiatric clinic here near Letitia. Disguised the embarrassment and cheered so that this information was not necessary. I will remember that, answered half without grace. But leaving aside any idea of haunting, the place seemed truly welcoming. The mood was pleasant. There was a river nearby with a small margin prepared for leisure, and the property was surrounded by trees and flowers. Letitia felt the body and the mind were light. She wanted to take a few days off so long, but Gustavo always claimed she could not go, and she never traveled alone. Barely arrived, Donna Irachema ran toward the garden she didn't see days. Let me help you, offered Letitia, who hated to be idle. Oh, don't even think about it, I scolded the mother-in-law. You are pregnant, you cannot work hard. I will only give a hand, insisted Letitia, with a conscious smile that I needed to be careful. Still, Donna Irachema did not let her wear out and handed her a simpler task to water the flowers, for it gave her a small and lightweight while performing the task. Letitia noticed something weird on the ground. Footprints, but they looked like hull marks. Thought, frowning, her mind immediately began to create horror images, remembering scary youth stories and movies. She liked the genre, but now a situation was different, and if Donna Irachema were right, and there was really something out of the ordinary there, as I knew it from home. The idea made a shiver come down through her column. Letitia tried to ward off the dread and decided that she would not say anything to her mother-in-law. She was finally a little calmer, and scare her again would be terrible. If she said something now, would certainly ride back to the urban center. By finishing the watering of the Letitia flowers, decided to know the neighborhood. And coincidentally, he saw a resident passing nearby was a kind lady named Donna Berenice, who lived in that village for all her life and loved to share stories of the place. As soon as Letitia left for gate, the elderly woman noticed her and approached without shyness to introduce himself to the Tavares house. Was right on the corner with only a neighbor next door, which pleased Letitia, who valued a little privacy. Donna Berenice liked to talk a lot. In the past, worked as paramedic, and I missed the days when he helped save people. To learn of Letitia's pregnancy, her eyes shone, and she immediately set out to prepare her herbs to relieve the sickness. Let's enjoyed the idea because she thought a natural remedy would be great. managed to insert a word in the middle of Donna Berenice's enthusiastic monologue, who talked about village trajectory. "This place has existed for centuries," warned the elderly enthusiastically, and making a pause. Leticia questioned, "And our house? You know who lived there before?" Donna Berenice released an ironic giggle and answered without delay, "Of course, here lived the family of our old forest guard." Caio told her immediately. Leticia was curious and asked the neighbor to continue. Donna Berenice explained that Caio had been accused of participating in illegal hunting of animals, as police were part of a scheme that provided meat and rare animal skins for groups. Clandestine, when the complaint came investigated and he was arrested, was a huge shaking for everyone to suspect that Caio could get involved in something like this. His son Gabriel ended up to an orphanage and had no one to support him questionably. Family assets were passed to the president of the village association, who soon dispatched the property to Leticia's husband, waiting, and the boy's mother asked Leticia, "Se scribe?" "Ah." The martyr lamented, Donna Berenice making a sad expression. She passed away a few years before the neighbor told that Marta was a kindly, dedicated person to the family, but already had fragile health, ended up taking strong pneumonia, and could not resist. As Caio suffered, Donna Berenice was alone with the son of Lap. The people here in the village tried to help as he could, mainly the ladies. Leticia, he felt a knot in his throat, was a sad story. She was sorry for Marta, who left so soon, and especially Gabriel, who lost her parents too early, but something did not fit at no way. Caio. It looked like a villain. She suspected that there was something more complex behind everything, maybe. He was just a victim of a frame. "And you really think he was guilty?" asked Leticia. Donna Berenice made a long breath and said, "Look at who can guarantee something. People's heart is a mystery. Sometimes you live with someone, and still, he doesn't know what's going on in his head." Leticia had no answer, continued with this question. Mark in the mind was already darkening and she needed to prepare to sleep. So he said goodbye and returned to the room to see how Donna Irachema was. The lady was already lying to know that the daughter-in-law was there, diminished the anxiety. "Good night," gave Leticia with a smile. "Good night, my dear, we'll rest," also returned Donna Irachema. Leticia agreed, but did not say that she had actually planned to stay awake from watching to try to catch the night visitor. The idea of having someone prowling the ranch did not leave his head, so she hid in the barn and waited. It was a long time before she started nap when she suddenly noticed movements in the yard. Footsteps. They were heard, and she soon spotted a small silhouette sneaking around her heart. She fired. She arrested her breath, taken by fear, but there was no way to go back. And who would defend us if we no longer thought with some audacity, with this determination? Let's left the determination hideout and threw a bag over the intruder, but instead of a scary man, heard a fragile, childish voice that pleaded, "Not to hurt me, not to hurt me." Leticia quickly took the bag and saw a boy who should not have more than 7 years old. Is even fear exaggerates everything. Reflected her, feeling a mixture of relief and shame. After all, she terrified her was just a child. She blinked, confused. "My God, what you are doing here?" The boy raised his chin and answered firmly, "I lived here before." Leticia wide, the eyes connecting the points. "You are Gabriel." He looked at her, suspicious. "Yes, but as you know who I am." And so finally the unknown that so disturbed Donna Irachema was unveiled. Gabriel had escaped from the shelter to revisit the childhood home and has no idea that someone. Now he owned the place. Everything was clear, but there was still something that bothered. "But I found hull marks in the garden." Remembered, Leticia was precisely what had made her supernatural. The boy opened a naughty smile and pulled an object from her pocket, a keychain. "Back my father did to me," said with pride. Leticia contained a laugh, all that tension, and in the end, the explanation was of almost comic simplicity. All this time, Donna Irachema was terrified with a simple boy, a boy who only missed the house where he lived in the meantime. The weather quickly changed light to tense when Gabriel mentioned his father. His eyes were full of sadness and grudge if it wasn't for that. Long-haired man, my father, and we would still be here, the boy said, a children's fury shining in his eyes. Letitia felt one immediate discomfort. She knew who he spoke. Gustavo, her husband, held her hair a little bigger. Always hairstyle backward by calling everyone's attention to the accusation left Letitia speechless. She was aware that children can simplify things and look easily in the middle of so much pain. But Gabriel had suffered a lot and kept revolt as she looked for what to say. Something unexpected occurred inside the house. Iracema, that she had gotten up to drink water, looked distracted through the window. The weak lighting and her view was no longer so good. So the elderly woman saw a small, dark form with something bulky on his back, her heart frozen. Her interpretation was not a boy, was a dark creature, a demon, and had gone to my God. My God. Babe bumped by, retreating with the trembling glass in the hands. My God, shouted Dona Iracema, terrified, taking her hand to her chest and taking a few steps back. A terrible fear took over her in a matter of seconds, felt a launching pain inside her chest, and her legs gave her to the cold sheet. The glass slipped from her fingers and shattered the floor. A noise made Letitia run inside without hesitation. Dona Iracema. Dona Iracema. The image she found made her blood freezing. The mother-in-law was extended to the floor without being able to react. Letitia tried to revive her, but unsuccessful. The dread increased. Stay here with her, ordered Gabriel. Help, the boy, still scared, just nodded. He knew he was visiting the house in a clandestine way, but never wanted to harm Dona Iracema. A heavy guilt took over him. Letitia ran to the house of Dona Berenice and hit desperate. Dona Berenice, please come to luck to the lady still. It was awake in a few minutes, already examined. Dona Iracema seems like a principle of infarction, commented with the frown call to the ambulance. Letitia was not wasted time. Shortly after the hospital arrived, the professionals took Dona Iracema straight to the cardiac. No one could enter with her, and he left. The doctors just increased the anxiety of Letitia. Desperate, she took the cell phone and dialed to Gustavo, but the phone only called him without answering. Dona Berenice watched that and shook her head with reproving air. My daughter is no use. This nervousness, all commented on the elderly, calmly. Feel a little. They will take care of everything, Letitia accepted. But that did not reassure her, actually brought more guilt mixed with distress beside her. Gabriel, writings of tension, changing the weight of a leg to another with a flushed face of shame until babbling, forgive me, please. I didn't want to cause her that. Letitia stared at the boy and felt a huge squeeze in her heart. Did not cross her head. Responsible Gabriel just wanted to review his old house. He too. I was scared. Without knowing right where to fit Letitia, he caressed his head, offering some consolation, stayed in the hospital for a period but realized that they could not see Dona Iracema at that moment. Without choice, came home to try to rest a little. Letitia showed gratitude to Dona Berenice for all help and without being able to deal with Gabriel. At that moment, he decided that he would spend the night there the next day. Letitia called the hospital. The news was not so encouraging. The state of Dona Iracema was still delicate but stable. Asked her, not disturbed. Letitia let out a heavy sigh, telling the hours to have some. Gustavo, relief, had not yet called. Back, he didn't even suspect what he had. Occurring without knowing who, resorted to Letitia, decided to return to the city. Gabriel, I will take you back to the shelter, announced bluntly before leaving a good breakfast to the boy. But he suddenly was shot down. He had lost his desire to eat. I have no option. Letitia, Sigpedo, noting the mood change. If I do not take you, they will miss you in the orphanage. Can even call the police by listening to police. Gabriel, stunned by reminiscent of the day her father was taken handcuffed, soon murmured, head down to the head. Arriving at the building where he lived, Letitia recalled that he had not warned Gustavo about the sudden return, but there was no problem. I doubt he is still sleeping, thinking better, just opening the door without sending a message. She pushed the door of the apartment and noticed that she was unlocking. Nothing so unusual, because sometimes the lock made no noise when she turned. The entrance of Letitia went unnoticed. and unintentionally she heard a conversation that should not. "Me you will. Be much happier with me. You will be much happier than with her," declared a sweet feminine voice, and convincing Letitia initially did not identify the origin of the sound. "The TV was off." "I know," answered a man whose voice was unmistakable. "It was Gustavo. Letitia, paralyzed, was missing, only he divorced, and then we could finally stop hiding," continued the woman with fun tone, and Gustavo continued, "Not to call the lady of the first floor she lives." And laughing at that moment, Letitia felt the world crumbly, was a few steps away. While the conversation demolishing her existence continued, the woman said with air, laughing, "Because it is this lady must find strange." And Gustavo answered, "Soon, I will say goodbye to this apartment." Letitia felt her heart fail. So she will really get rid of him. "I wanted to know the lover." With a curious tone, certainly, replied Gustavo without any ceremony. The legs of Letitia bumped. She leaned on the wall so as not to fall, urgently to pull the air. Her husband was laughing with another, making plans of a future in which she was not even remembered how it was. It could be fair. Suddenly the sadness became revolt without thinking. Letitia entered the kitchen, where the lover, who only wore the Gustavo shirt, took a huge scare. Gustavo turned the quick body, revealing panic printed on the face. "Letitia, what is doing here? You should not be in the ranch with my mother. Surely this would be the ideal scenario for you," is not sarcastic. "It would appear by surprise and would not even find your betrayal." Gustavo crashed. "My mother was ill, to the emergency room, as you do not answer the cell phone. I thought I should tell you. Live at the time." The expression changed. "Hospital. What happened to her? Really wants to." Knowing Letitia crossed her arms. "So go there and find out, or call there. They will explain to you better." She did not want to discuss anything about Donna Irachema or the last hours. The only thing she wanted was to go immediately, just to stay. Gustavo had repulsion, and more than that, disgust, because that man became a stranger every second. His lover, hidden behind Gustavo, visibly dull, unable to stretch Letitia directly, but did not divert his cold look from the woman who helped destroy her marriage. But deep down, she knew that the real fault was his man. She loved the father of the son who carried, and he had tore all tomorrow. "I will enter the divorce," decreed Letitia with the trembling voice of Ira. The reaction of Gustavo surprised him. Not even tried to argue, seemed much more worried about the state of the mother than with the end of the marriage. "I agree. I think it's better for us to respond without hesitation." His naturalness hurt even more. There was no apology or regret. Attempt to justify what he did, only accepted without reacting, as if waiting. So Leathered felt nausea, gave ride to leave, but before there was a single question that hammered his head. "Tell me it was you who set up Takayo." Gustavo released a crooked, proud smile. "Proud? Of course, it was one of my big moves. Boasted I needed just a few days to get it out of the way and take the house for almost nothing." Contempt took over Letitia. "You are one." The word got stuck in the throat, the disgust you felt. But it was not worth it. Or looking at him without pronouncing anything else, she stepped on firm, trying to get rid of the feeling of asco as she descended the stairs. The tears finally gushed. She felt naive, was wasted with a man who turned out to be a stranger. Was for that what I got married? Now I'm alone, and I will be single mother. The thought crushed to go back to the apartment was unfeasible. That place was no longer her home. Without any alternative, called a taxi, and it was again, though there was only a destination where Letitia could go, the ranch sitting on the bench. From the car to the overloaded mind of dark ideas, now everything clarified. Gustavo sent her to the ranch to be free and without the risk of being unmasked. And if Donna Irachema had not sick, or if Gustavo had answered her cell phone, she would never know about the betrayal, would continue to live in lie, being made in the foolish. This thought, huge, arriving at the ranch, received a call from the hospital. The painting of Donna Irachema had improved, and she could already receive visits. Letitia felt a great relief, at least good news in so much torment, before entering the room. Da's mother-in-law was sought by the doctor in charge. She is stable and out of risk, clarified it, but it is essential to avoid stressful situations. Any Emotional shock can bring kings let a bitter smile. All her situation was pure confusion. I will do what could guarantee. The idea was not revealing nothing about divorce to Donna Irachema. At least for now, since my future ex-husband is also silent, thought annoyed before leaving the hospital. Leticia sent a message to Gustavo saying that his mother was fragile and could not know about divorce because needed. Avoid shocks, do not say anything. The doctor was clear. The doctor was attentive and made a point of reaffirming that the team was giving the greatest support. Leticia thanked and headed for the room where Donna Irachema rested. In a nutshell, explained what had happened about the boy who walked the ranch at night, reinforcing that he didn't. It represented any danger, guaranteed that Gabriel just missed the house where he had lived, and promised that these stealth visits would not be repeated. Donna Irachema was reassuring her expression, until you cheered up a little. But you will take care of my flower bed while I am hospitalized is not questioned, asking that Leticia promised to watch over the garden. She agreed with a slight nod. When returning to the ranch, she found Donna Berenice waiting, sitting on the stool. External, how is her mother? In law, asked the old woman. As soon as Leticia approached, she is well obliged for worrying, returned Leticia, trying not to show the confusion of feelings. Donna Berenice stared at her with a penetrating look that seemed to see beyond the words. Her eyes are sad, my girl commented. As if read his heart, Leticia felt awkward and disguised, saying that he was only worried about Donna Irachema. Is not only that, muttered Donna Berenice, shaking her head. Yesterday, with all the tension, her gaze was not so erased today. He withered the kind lady. Since early on, it was good to notice the emotions of others, became fond of Leticia and wanted to help her, even if it was with words of affection. Leticia in turn was trying to straighten the new routine in the ranch, taking virtually all her things. There was slowly trying to rebuild the future without Gustavo in the service. Her long license was not well received, but she had no choice. After all, she was pregnant and knew her rights as an employee. Things followed her course until one afternoon, someone knocked on the door aggressively. The sound, strong and insistently, made Leticia think that she could be Donna Berenice. Only when she opened the door, came across an unknown guy, had a restless expression. I'm looking for something that Caio asked me to, growled him the rough voice. We split a cell. He told me to recover a thing that is in the basement. I need to enter. Leticia faced confused. I do not know what it is, but I will not allow your entry. That unpleasant reception, commented the man, outlining an ironic smile, while taking some object out of her pocket. She swallowed hard and automatically protected her belly with her hands, left her on the alert, sought some sign of help, then spotted Donna Berenice appearing behind the fence without blunt. Leticia tried to communicate with her in a look like help. Without wide open, the despair forced a smile and changed the tone. But what a lack of education, my grumbled, pousing a palm in the other. An honorable man like you deserves yes, and take whatever you want. But before you have a sip to relax, my neighbor makes the best homemade liquor from here. The guy ran his tongue on his lips, seeming to like the idea. That sounds great. Agreed to show off his yellow and chipped teeth, leaving Leticia free to back down and approaching Donna Berenice, murmuring to her, I hope the liquor is very strong. The lady has put her head with a shiny shine in the strong eyes. Is little answered softly in the ear of this mixture. A dose can put any big to sleep, completed, letting down while calm down while pouring the drink into the glass. His hands trembled. Donna Berenice noticed and suggested low in voice, my daughter would not be better to call the police, but Leticia refused, swinging her head, knew that until they arrived, it could be late. I resolve, muttered, determined. The man who did not reveal was dropped on the couch as if he were the owner of the place. In fact, he had not been sent by Caio. This individual fell out with him in prison, was part of a group trying to impose aggressive rules. For novices, Caio refused to participate and became the target of threats and humiliations, but remained firm because he needed to get out of condition to find his son again. We bring this drink, shouted the impatient visitor. Leticia breathed and approached, almost had no time to put the glass on. The glass table the guy took and ingested everything on a sip, only she got wide-eyed. There had a generous dose of sleepwalk. Maybe she didn't overdo it, but if that man passed out were the ultimate of the problem, would not be bad. A few moments, he began to lose the balance. That type of housewife, as you complained. Already, Zonzo brought the drink, but where the food? Leticia pretended a smile. I will. Look for something, said, going to the kitchen when the intruder was tall on the couch, worked side, putting his hands on his chest. And now we called the police, questioned Donna Berenice, staring at the unconscious figure waiting. Need. Back, something said. Leticia down the basement stairs. She suspected the insistence on looking for something there. Examining everything, did not find anything surprising, was almost rising when he stumbled on something hard. By luck, managed to hold on to not fall to protect. The belly, felt the belly floor, and noticed that a board was kind of loose, carefully introduced his fingers in space and pulled. What found it made the air. My God, murmured. In his hands shone a massive gold jar. Now everything fits, was the reason for the hallucinated search for that bandit. Years before, Kaio had found this treasure by chance. While working in the woods, someone had buried him and disappeared. He did not know what to do, so he hid in pouring to use in an emergency, but was arrested before enjoying, and gold remained forgotten when he was in jail. Kaio mentioned this secret to someone, trusting the person. This man discovered and decided that when he left, the prison would take the object to himself, but was frustrated by Leticia. Donna Berenice Cunning finally called the police, and Leticia declined to hide anything when the investigators arrived. She explained that the gold was probably found and stored without clear origin, and that now served as proof in favor of Kaio. The criminal was taken back behind them, grids after the invasion and threat, with a white weapon. His freedom was convicted of gold, underwent analysis, and police tracked his origin. If no one came to claim, would be used in the defense of Kaio. Realizing the chance of Leticia sought a good lawyer was expensive, but she felt, being what to do in the office. The receptionist commented, "This process seems very relevant." The lawyer said, "It will be something intricate and will have a high value to tell the truth." "Don't even know the man in question," commented, half smiling. Surprising the girl, the confusion did not last because the lawyer was objective. In a few days, the case of Kaio was reopened. Leticia wanted to tell the news to Gabriel, so went to the orphanage. As soon as the boy widened his eyes, "You swear that mine father can be loose?" "Yes," smiled Leticia. "The chances are huge." Gabriel did not contain the joy and hugged her tightly, leaning her face on her chest. Leticia felt a warmth in her heart and returned the hug, wrapping him in her arms. "You will see, dear, you and yours. Soon father will come back to live together as before, promised." Leticia, the boy, walked away a little to face her with thoughtful air. "And you asked, a little insecure, what I have. I did not understand. Question where you will live," clarified. He asked. The question really took her surprise. He had not thought of this when he left the prison. Kaio would have back home, but she would do what to return to Gustavo? It was impossible. The divorce was almost going out. The relationship of the two had no salvation. She had no close friends that could shelter her, and her parents lived across the country, and she barely talked to them. There was no chance of getting back. The feeling of tightness took over her chest, and Leticia found no words for Gabriel. The image of Kaio came to mind as he would react to sharing the house with a stranger. It would be ridiculous. Leticia released a nervous giggle, spent a few days, and finally, Donna Irachima was discharged from the hospital. She appeared weakly, but what most hurt her was not having received a visit from her son Gustavo throughout the hospitalization. Her own son, or all, appeared, but all well murmured. She, as if she wanted to be convinced Gustavo must be full of appointments. You can't be in two places at the same time. Leticia laughed bitterly without saving the mother-in-law. She thought it better to ask Donna Berenice to prepare a soothing tea and took a deep breath before reporting the truth in detail. When the narrative, Donna Iracema was so livid that Leticia considered calling medical aid again. "And all of this came out of my own son," muttered the astonished lady. The voice was someone who no longer recognized the air Leticia also suffered for her. But Donna Irachema did not try to convince her to keep the marriage, aware that it would be impossible to do what to find right. My daughter made tired, whatever her decision has my support. Letitia thanked you to be supported, while Donna Irachema noticed that despite the having been out, Letitia did not let the plants die, any flower withering, and even some seedlings began to sprout to distract. Donna Irachema dived at what she always calmed her. Planting Letitia focused on the divorce's proceedings, that Gustavo would not make it easier during the last meeting. He made it clear that he would not admit to separate without fighting for his interests. His focus was, the baby knew he would have to bear pension, and pregnancy could harm him. In the division of goods was when his lover proposed something evil to contest paternity. He insinuated, say she was not faithful, that she had a dubious lifestyle. Gustavo listened to silence, but seriously considered the idea. After all, just bribe certain people to corroborate any accusation. When discovering Letitia, it was devastated to think that the man he had used to destroy his honor, was unbearable. But she did not shut up deeply gathered forces, and in the first audience reacted safely. I am willing to do the paternity test to end this slander with Letitia's conviction, and the competent lawyer overthrew Gustavo's strategy. In the end, he admitted to being his father. Baby, if it were for her, the son would never need to know a father like this. Let us think of feeling a twinge of suffering. The sessions in court continued, and Gustavo did everything to complicate the Leticia process, went through moments of emotional exhaustion, sometimes considered giving everything just for him. Drop it, but don't do it. Girl guided Donna Berenice, if you bend now will bend. Forever, as you will raise this child without dignity. The neighbor's speech returned to him. The claw squeezed his fists and continued fighting until finally the divorce came out and the sharing goods was fair, leaving the lover of Gustavo Furiosa, who already inhabited the old apartment, redecorating everything, now remained ruins of her plans. Let's see if this baby will be born. Gustavo with a cruel look. Letitia felt a chill. Was terrible to think that one day she chose this man to be his partner, or was he always a naive, blind man? Wondered with bitterness. After the outcome of divorce, the process of Caio quickly progressed. New evidence confirmed that the incrimination against him had been forged by Gustavo. The police now turned to the true guilty. In the case, the first to investigate was the president of the village association that not only made the illegal transaction of the house of Caio, but was also involved in other frauds and bribes. The investigations expanded and discovered a dossier of trambiques in which Gustavo appeared as the principal frauder. In fact, he was not just a small businessman, but a used to real estate scorer. Exact day when Caio was released upon returning to the ranch without any warning, just wanted to rest. But upon entering the kitchen, came across a man who never saw him holding a frying pan as if to use as a weapon. In the scare, let a jump, taking his hands in the mouth for a second, was terrified by imagining that it was the same marginal who tried to invade the house a long time ago. My God, whispered. Tremula me. Sorry, I said, Letitia still panting. I didn't even know how you were. Caio smiled calmly. All rightly answered, happy to finally know who helped me. He thanked the lawyer's services and for his attention to Gabriel while he was out. But I did nothing worthy of merit. He counted her awkwardly in the end. It was pure luck to finding gold and used to boost the defense. Do not say the real effort, it was from his lawyer, but if it wasn't for his initiative, I would still be locked up. Pointed out Caio, and besides, Gabriel told me that you always treated him very well. She agreed and mentioned how brave and kind. He nodded. Proud, yes, he is. Even later talked. More time until Donna Berenice emerged on the porch. Both Caio and Gabriel had appreciation for her. The reunion was happy. The time flew, and the sky darkened. Letitia realized that it was time to leave. I think I extended beyond the account is better. I go to where, exclaimed Donna Berenice. Put her hands on her waist. Is at night, dear. Besides, you are pregnant. Letitia gave a significant look to the lady of the type, really. Needed to release this information in front of everyone, but the elderly ignored and continued pointing the difficulties, all that Letitia came staring at. She felt her cheeks blocked, but noticed that Kaio looked softly. "You are amazing to confess." He never saw someone so hearty. Letitia blushed, not knowing what to answer, so he really decided to go up, got the bag and prepared to call a taxi. "That foolishness," said Donna Berenice. "They no longer work at this time." And Kaio completed with the frown. There is no race at this time. And so Letitia ended up agreeing to sleep a night there, thought to stay in the room. But Kaio insisted for her to use the bedroom where she came. Staying, Donna Berenice gave her a fun look for her. Letitia smiled on her own, and why she didn't whisper just for her. They combined a lot the next day. Another twist. A strong thunder dropped trees and posts, interdicting access. There was no way to leave, and the taxis also didn't circulate. Letitia to stay there longer, surprisingly. It was mild and pleasant days, and Kaio walked around the surrounding sunset on the edge of the river, talked about past, and gradually plans a new feeling emerged. She felt a tranquility never lived, and the freedom to be. There was the soul well, but the week passed, and the time to say goodbye she will mark to leave on the day. Next, after the road was released, but upon waking up had a fever. "My daughter, you cannot travel like this," complained. Donna Berenice, distressed. Kaio agreed and insisted that she rests on the days after. He took care of her carefully, something that Letitia had not received from Gustavo in all years of coexistence. 3 days later, Letitia was already good and decided not to abuse their generosity. "Sure, I can't keep occupying this place," concluded she, staring at Gabriel and pretending to look for a way to prolong her stay. Was the boy who found the perfect excuse. "But only 3 missing days to my birthday," he spoke radiant, "is to celebrate with me." He launched an impossible, supplicant look, impossible to refuse. Letitia agreed to the day of the party, brought home and family sensations that she did not feel from childhood when her own parents separated, but all good celebration. It comes to an end, and this time I had no excuse to postpone the tight-heart exit. He said he would warn Gaius that he would leave early the next day. I was cheering to happen and prevent it, who knows, another rain or unforeseen, but none of that succeeded. It was all quiet to the point of hurting. As they walked side by side in an uncomfortable silence, each lost in thoughts, approached the taxi that waited. Kaio deeply breathed, trying to say something but seemed not to find the words. The driver lowered the glass and warned that he was ready. Kaio clenched his fists as if fighting against himself, did not mutter, looking at her intensely. "I can't let you leave." Letitia felt a colossal relief. "That good you said," answered it gently, and those few words meant more than any speech. They hugged. The two was waiting for this moment for a long time, but none dared to take the definitive step. Was the fear of farewell that made them recognize what they felt. Kaio would never allow her to leave. Sometime later, they officialized the union and started a new life. He cared about the fact that Letitia carried a son from another man. He and Gabriel received her as part of the family from day one, and when they found out that the baby would be a girl, Kaio could not be more happy. "I hope she is as strong and beautiful," you said he, admiring Letitia. She returned, thrilled. "Finally, your life resumed the right course. Thank you very much for following this narrative. If you liked it, don't forget to enjoy. For you is just a click, but for me makes all the difference. A big hug, and until next time, history